a shadowed figure on a lover's lane, a shot in the dark, a direct call to the police dispatcher, "I want to report a murder." Then came the letters. Written in a cryptic geometric code, they said, "This is the Zodiac speaking." For 50 years, the world has been trying to solve his final puzzle. He didn't just kill for pleasure, he killed to become an urban legend, and he won. But what traces did his ego leave behind?
For over 50 years, one name has haunted American true crime, and that name is the Zodiac.
So, let's get into it. Who was this phantom that terrorized Northern California?
Well, we know he was a serial killer in the Bay Area, targeting couples and even a cab driver. Here's how we'll break it down. The attacks, those creepy letters, the massive hunt, and his chilling legacy. His confirmed reign of terror was short but absolutely brutal, just 10 months across 4 locations. His pattern? He'd go after young couples in secluded spots. Then, he got brazen, right in San Francisco. But you see, the attacks were only half of it. He loved to taunt everyone with letters. And every letter had this signature, a crosshair symbol that became a brand of pure terror. He didn't just write letters, he sent these insane ciphers, basically daring anyone to figure him out. Amazingly, a school teacher and his wife cracked one. It revealed his motive, but not his name. So the hunt was on. It became one of the biggest in California history. But he was a ghost. Police looked at over 2,500 people, but one name just kept coming up: Arthur Lee Allen. But here's the thing, there was a ton of circumstantial evidence, but the hard proof, it never matched. Officially, we know he killed 5 people. But in his letters, he claimed he got 37. His last confirmed letter showed up in 74. And then, nothing. But the case is still open today. And so his legend just exploded, right? Inspiring movies and a whole army of amateur detectives. I mean, the case went inactive, but they reopened it. That just shows you the hold it has on people.
So, will we ever really know his name? That's the question that keeps this dark American mystery alive.
Aged 340 symbols of pure malice. It took over half a century to crack his most famous cipher, his motive. He claimed he was collecting slaves for the afterlife. But every letter, every phone call, and every bloody piece of evidence was a breadcrumb left for a chase that never ended. Let's look at the physical traces he left on his trophies and see where the search for the Zodiac truly went cold.
All right, let's get into one of the most infamous, most baffling true crime cases in American history, the Zodiac Killer. For over half a century, this whole thing has been a chilling, unsolved riddle, a ghost story that's all too real. And that's really the question at the heart of all this, isn't it? The Zodiac wasn't just some random killer hiding in the shadows. No, he was a performer. He put himself right in the spotlight with letters, phone calls, taunting everyone. And yet, his true identity is still a complete blank. How on earth is that even possible? So let's just quickly run through the confirmed timeline of his attacks, just to set the scene. It all kicks off in December 1968 with the murders of 2 teenagers, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. The violence just steamrolls through 1969. More shootings, a really brutal stabbing, and then it all culminates in the murder of a cab driver, Paul Stein, right in a wealthy San Francisco neighborhood. In less than a year, you've got 5 people dead, 2 survivors, and an entire region absolutely gripped by fear. But here's the thing. The Zodiac's terror wasn't just about the physical violence. You could argue his most enduring weapon was his mind. He used it to wage this psychological war against the police and the public, all through a series of these really cryptic letters and incredibly complex ciphers. And this is what really set him apart. This wasn't just random violence. The Zodiac craved notoriety. He was mailing these bizarre, complex cryptograms to major newspapers, promising his identity was hidden somewhere inside all those symbols. It was a terrifying game, and for a very, very long time, he was the only one who knew the rules. And out of all his puzzles, this was the big one, the Z340 cipher, a 340-character monster sent to the San Francisco Chronicle back in November of '69. For investigators, for amateur sleuths, for everyone, this was the Holy Grail. It held the promise of finally unmasking the killer. 51. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how many years this one cipher remained unsolved. And get this, It wasn't the FBI who cracked it, not the CIA. It was a team of private citizens, a software engineer, a mathematician, and a programmer who finally cracked it in 2020. I mean, what an incredible feat.
So, what did they find? After all that work, half a century, did they get a name? A confession? Nope, they got more taunts. This just shows you exactly what his mindset was. He's boasting about collecting slaves for the afterlife, he even misspells paradise, and he's mocking the very people who are trying to stop him. The cipher wasn't a clue, it was just another act of psychological terror.
Okay, so if the ciphers were a dead end, what about the actual physical evidence? You'd think that would give us some answers, right? Well, as we're about to see, instead of providing any clarity, the clues he left behind just made the whole mystery even deeper. The crime scenes created this puzzle where none of the pieces seem to fit together. You gotta hear this. Take the murder of the cab driver, Paul Stein. Teenage witnesses from across the street gave a description of a husky white man in a dark jacket, which led to that famous composite sketch we all know. But just moments after the murder, patrol officers actually spoke to a white man nearby, and they let him go. Why? Because the dispatcher had mistakenly broadcast that the suspect was black. A single critical error might have allowed the Zodiac to literally just walk away from the scene. And it gets even more frustrating from there. He left partial fingerprints in the cab. He left a wet palm print on a payphone he used to call the police. He even left his saliva on the letter stamps, which, eventually led to a partial DNA profile. But none of it, not a single piece, has ever been conclusively matched to any suspect. It's a trail of evidence that leads everywhere and nowhere, all at the same time. All of this brings us to the one and only officially named suspect in this entire case, a man who became the face of the investigation for decades, Arthur Lee Allen. So Allen was a former elementary school teacher and a convicted sex offender. He popped up on law enforcement's radar after a friend of his actually reported him. The friend claimed Allen had talked about hunting people and even mentioned a specific threat the Zodiac had made about shooting up a school bus. The coincidences just started to pile up one after another. And this right here is the absolute core of the entire mystery. On one hand, the circumstantial evidence against Allen was just overwhelming. He wore a Zodiac brand watch, with the killer's crosshair symbol right on it. Police found all sorts of disturbing stuff in his trailer. He even allegedly confessed to a friend before he died. But then, you look at the direct physical evidence, the hard science, the partial DNA from the stamps, didn't match his. His fingerprints, not a match. That palm print from the payphone wasn't his. Every single piece of hard evidence cleared him. So what do you do with that? How can someone fit the profile so perfectly, yet be completely excluded by the forensics? Were investigators just chasing the wrong guy for decades? Or, and this is where it gets really strange, does it open up an even more bizarre possibility? Could Allen have been the letter writer, the mastermind, but he had an accomplice who was the actual killer on the ground? Could there have been two Zodiacs? After 1974, the confirmed letters just stopped. The Zodiac, as this public figure, simply vanished into thin air. But did the killing actually stop? Well, the killer himself gave us a really chilling clue about what his endgame was. He literally told us his plan. He wasn't just going to disappear, he was going to evolve. He said he would change his methods, to blend in, to make his future crimes look like everyday violence, routine robberies, fake accidents, things that would be totally indistinguishable from the background noise of the city. He planned to become a ghost in the machine, hiding right there, in plain sight. And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Did the Zodiac just die, taking his secrets to the grave? Or did he actually pull it off? Did he become that ghost he promised to be, maybe still quietly watching from some dark corner of San Francisco? Do you think we'll ever find the truth locked away in some code? Or do you believe that in the end, the killer won this game? That's the riddle he left for all of us.
The Zodiac vanished, but he was never truly quiet. He played with lives and words, leaving a legacy of cipher and fear. Stay tuned, because case number 8 takes us into a small, terrifying town in 1976, where a single, haunting image of a clown face left an entire family's fate in darkness. This is Terminal Trace.